Is astrology a guide to aid us in mastering the universe? This is the Cosmic Community Podcast with Galactic Ambassador Stacey Dredd. This astrology report is for the week of March 18th. And I hope that everybody is doing well out there. We are in the wormhole. We're in the eclipse portal. That means we are in between the first of the two eclipses of 2025. Hopefully you were able to see that blood moon out there. It was pretty awesome. It's amazing to me that it only lines up for that one night, even with a full moon, or a new moon. That event lasts for 3 whole days. I mean, it's pretty much full for 3 days, 3 nights. And then at the new moon, it's dark for those 3 nights. So it's amazing to me that the eclipses are just that one night. And so that was totally beautiful. But what is an eclipse? Astronomically, this lunar eclipse was when the Earth moved in between the sun and the moon. So the moon actually had the Earth's shadow cast on it. And that's what creates that lunar eclipse or that blood moon. And so in terms of astronomy, that's what we're dealing with. And then in terms of astrology, eclipses have this really deep meaning to them, where it is a time when we can be put back on our cosmic course. So we have an opportunity to be given messages, to be given course corrections. During eclipse time, things can happen kind of forcefully. You see a lot of deaths, a lot of births, a lot of just kind of like forceful things that come in and go out. Something that you've been working on for a while may just like all of a sudden be yanked out or be, put into your life. So people that you meet, things that happen during these eclipse times, very, very important, and can be actually putting us on our destined course, because the soul's destiny takes a lifetime to unravel, and that is each of ours doing for ourselves. That is a very deep process. There are a lot of unknown twists and turns and mysteries along that path, and even sometimes when we feel like we have found it, sometimes we can realize that that's not it and that it's time to move on. And so these times are very karmically destined times when we have the eclipses. We're right in the middle of the two. So pay attention. The solar eclipse is going to be finishing this whole eclipse cycle on March 29th. And that is going to be the solar eclipse in Aries, really close in to the Pisces North Node point. So that will be the sort of closing point to the story here, where we'll be able to find more peace and more closure after that solar eclipse on March 29th. But for now, we're in this deep, unknown, mysterious time in the portal where we are dealing with clearing a lot of ancestral wounds and karma and collective karma. A lot of that has to do with Pisces, and Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. And so we are closing things up. We are closing things out. We're clearing. We are getting ready for the new. And, Pisces also reminds us that the past is gone, that there are new things coming up. The past is gone. It's out of our control. We cannot change anything about the past. All we can do now is move forward, observe what's going on, observe the patterns, and have some trust in the divine the divine timing and the divine presence of this universe. Realize that these patterns and these processes and these cycles are so much bigger than just each of us as individuals, and there is a global process, a universal process, and a personal process, and that a lot of times the past being gone is actually a blessing in disguise. So this is how we're kind of moving into this week. And we also have the planet Mars in Cancer, recently moved direct. Well, not so recent. It's been a couple months now since Mars stationed direct, but is taking sweet time, moving through the post-retrograde shadow in the last 12 degrees of Cancer, the last 10 degrees at this point. We're at about 20 degrees as we speak, with Mars in a square to Chiron. We brought this up when we were moving through the Mars retrograde and getting set up for that. Chiron is the wounded healer. Mars is our physical body. So there's a lot of physical things going on here. There's a lot of healing going on. There's a lot of focus on wounds, immortal wounds, and the wounding in our life and how we're physically responding to that. There could be a lot of trauma triggers. There could be a lot of, when we have a square with Chiron, squares are tough. They bring in sort of a hit from the side. It's like being kind of like hit like a blind spot in a way. But it does give us the opportunity, a square, to take action. And so there's action-oriented things going on in terms of healing our wounds, stepping into new spaces with our wounded self and the way that we look at our wounds. You know, our wounds are actually meant to create superheroes out of us, because those wounds, after we master them, they become a superpower that we have a special knowledge and wisdom on after going through that process. So, the moon, as we start out this week on March 18th, is in Scorpio. And Scorpio is a water sign, traditionally ruled by Mars. Mars is also in a trine to this moon in Scorpio. So there is some real physical energy to the 18th of March. And there's also a grand water trine because the moon is in Scorpio, Mars is in Cancer, and we have all of this Pisces stuff still going on with Saturn at 23, the North Node at 27, the Sun at 29, and Neptune at 29 and a half. So we've got a grand water trine starting out the week. Water, emotions, water, sensitivities, water, mutability, which means being able to be kind of flexible, right? Water moves around, takes the shape of the container that it's put in. But for us humans, we are made of 70% water, but we have 30% of a lot of other stuff that doesn't like to be conforming to every container that it's put in. So when we have all this watery energy, that's what creates some of those sensitivities. It's like, well, I'm feeling this way and I don't want to be pushed emotionally, in any way. So Tuesday of this week, really looking pretty sensitive. And with that trine to Mars, could be a trine makes things happen quickly. And if you are feeling like snapping today, then that could happen very quickly. If you're feeling like compromising today, then that's going to happen very nice and easily. If you're feeling like taking action today, then that's going to be the easy action. So whatever the activity feelings are, they are strong on the 18th, and the Sun is moving into a perfect conjunction with Neptune. As I mentioned, the Sun's at 29, Neptune's at 29.5 degrees of Pisces. So check out your birth chart. Where is 29 degrees of Pisces? Do you have any planets or points here? And if so, the Sun conjuncting with Neptune is going to bring about some reveals. The planet of Neptune symbolizes a lot of mystery and illusion and delusional thinking and thoughts and patterns and communication and when we have the Sun, the brightest entity, come through and conjunct with these planets, we have that bright spotlight put on it. So Neptune being spotlighted this week, and all the things that Neptune represents are going to be brought out into the light. The moon moves into Sagittarius on March 19th. Makes us feel, after being in Scorpio, can be a little more secretive, a little more deep, a little more wanting to stay quiet and intimate. And then the moon moves into Sagittarius, makes us feel a little more adventurous. There is a need to sort of light things up a little bit, as the fire sign of Sagittarius likes to aim those arrows and shoot, right out straight. So Sagittarius has a totally different energy. When we come into March 19th, we're going to feel differently than the day before when we had that grand water trine taking place. More of the things that may be spotlighted when the Sun comes into a conjunction with Neptune is our hopes and dreams and our desires are all tied up in Neptune. And we could have some pretty big revelations and realizations about some hopes, dreams, and desires that we have. Neptune's at a very, very critical degree at 29 degrees of Pisces. It's really wanting to close things up, wrap it up, kind of like, clean up the room, make sure the chair's pushed back in and that the light's been turned off. I mean, Neptune is like pretty much out of Pisces and into Aries already in terms of its intention. I mean, it's imminent. It's already headed that way. Neptune is going to retrograde and go back into Pisces later this year, but 2026 we'll see Neptune into complete fresh energy in Aries, starting all kinds of new hopes, dreams, and desires. But for now, Neptune is closing out in Pisces and is saying goodnight and saying the final goodbyes and tying up those loose ends, because we are in another transition week also, and that is moving from winter to spring, moving across the Aries Equinox in the northern hemisphere, triggers spring in the southern hemisphere, can be moving into the fall time. So we just call that the Aries Equinox for a good global astrological terminology there. And we get these new beginnings finally starting to peek their heads out. See, we've had this really interesting energy in Aries lately. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and we always have these new beginnings and start things here. But both Venus and Mercury, Venus, the planet of love, Mercury, the planet of our mind, they have moved into Aries, but both have stationed retrograde and are going to be moving back into Pisces and joining the rest of these planets in these critical final degrees of Pisces to help. I mean, they're going back to like help clean up after the party. Like, this Pisces party has been a wild one. Pisces is a really interesting energy. I was just talking to somebody about Pisces, and one of the very first things that I ever learned about Pisces was that there are the two fish. So each, sign has their little mascot, and the Pisces mascot is the two fish, and they're kind of in the 6-9 position, turned like a yin yang on each other. And you've got two fish, both of them pointed in different directions. And so Pisces, one of the first things I learned was that these two fish, and there's two types of Pisces. There's the one Pisces that is flipped with the current and is just going downstream with the current and everything and moving along that way. And then there's the Pisces that has flipped themselves all the way back around and are pushing themselves against everything up the stream and fighting their way. So you have like this really submissive version of Pisces and a surrendered version, and then you have this version of Pisces that wants to head in a certain direction and like take on the world. Pisces is a really interesting, almost like an energy of feeling like a victim, like things are really against me, that there is a lot going against me in Pisces, that things can feel a little scary out there. And so being able to flip the tail and swim upstream for a Pisces is probably one of the tougher things to find within that energy, but it does exist within the Pisces energy to do this. And so that is, with these closures, with the idea that we really want to be wrapping a lot of things up, there's going to be some Pisces energy that's going to turn and swim away from it and go downstream and just go with what's easy. But there's going to also be, and this is most likely you because you are interested in this and the astrology and what's happening, and you want to work with this to the best of your ability. And that's going to be finding that strength to flip and push upstream and to push through the victim mentality of, me against the world. Well, it is me against the world, but there's a collectiveness to Pisces. There's a source energy that we can go to. So we are moving into Aries, but not before finishing up all of this Pisces work. I almost feel like this Aries season is for you folks that have a lot of Aries energy. Maybe you have an Aries sun or ascendant or a moon or a personal planet in Aries or multiples. I feel like this Aries season that we are coming up to is going to be a little bit of a washout for you. And I do mean a washout because all this Pisces energy has flooded over into Aries. And it's just like going to be seeping back over into Pisces. And then by the time all of this stuff transitions out, the sun's going to be moved on into Taurus, and we're going to be, moving into different energies. So, really, really beautiful Aries Equinox on March 20th. And that is indeed the astrological new year also, when the sun moves in to that 0 degrees Aries point out of Pisces, the final sign of the zodiac. Then on March 21st, we have the moon coming into a T-square with the nodes of fate, which makes March 21st a very, very fateful day. And then we also have Venus in her retrograde sextiling with Pluto. And this gets more significant as we add a couple more things to it. So then on the 22nd, on Saturday, we have the Venus Starpoint. The Venus Starpoint is when Venus and the sun conjunct. Venus is retrograde, and the sun are going to move. They're going to crisscross each other there at 3 degrees of Aries. Then on the 23rd, the sun is going to sextile that same Pluto. So did you get that? We got Venus talking to Pluto on Friday. We've got Venus and the sun talking to each other on Saturday, and then the sun talking to Pluto on Sunday, followed by Mercury conjuncting with the Sun on the 24th. So there's a lot of little conversations going on. And when we have conversations with Pluto and we have a T-square with the nodes of fate like we do on March 21st, it's going to be very transformative. Venus retrograde is happening right now, transforming relationships. So I believe that March 21st, this sextile with Pluto is a really beautiful opportunity to finalize some of these transformations, to realize some of these transformations that need to take place in relationships within our own heart, within our value systems. And Venus also represents money. So it could be in terms of like the money flow in your life, how you make money, money things. So then on the 22nd, Venus and the Sun talk to each other. So like I mentioned, the Sun comes in as a giant spotlight, right? It's going to highlight whatever Venus just talked to Pluto about. What was that big conversation? Let's just take a look at that. And then the Sun moves the next day and talks to Pluto about that. Hey, I just talked to Venus yesterday about that conversation that you guys had, and we're in another sextile now. So now I'm going to have this transformation in my ego. That's what the Sun represents, in my mind. And since then, the Sun has moved into Aries. We have a fresh perspective. We're in a bolder, more confident energy in Aries. Pisces can be a little fearful and a little standoffish and be an escapist. Aries is the opposite. It wants to take charge. It's going to focus on where it needs to go, and it's going to get there at all costs. Now, Aries is ruled by the planet of Mars, and Mars is in Cancer right now in a bit of a debilitated place. So when we talk about Aries, and when we talk about action, and when we talk about the physical body right now, it's a little bit debilitated. Mars is very, very excited to leave Cancer and enter Leo and get some of its confidence back and become a little more social, a little more outward. In Cancer, can just be very guarded. Very much into personal security and the security and safety of those that are intimate and of the home and the family. So there is a focus right now to that physical action that almost dumbs it down a little bit. So all this Aries energy and this Aries season is still going to have this ruling planet Mars in Cancer, debilitated, being ruled by the moon, because Cancer is ruled by the moon, changing its emotional state every 2.5 days until it leaves Leo, then is ruled by the Sun. And we will see things change quite a bit for the masculine energy and for the physical body and for getting things done and taking action in life. So very, very interesting movement this week with the Sun and that, imminent conjunction with Neptune, revealing mysteries, with the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, bringing more balance and harmony. This is also a time where we want to get out into nature. Nature can help us feel balanced, getting some grounding in, getting some nice tree hugging in, whatever it is, just touching the water, whatever you need to do to feel grounded and to feel connected with nature, as this equinox point is a balancing point for nature and the natural world. And then these conversations with Pluto, just bringing in transformation to our minds and to our relationships, and the Venus Starpoint helping us realize where we're at in this Venus retrograde cycle. So I do wish you the very best, and I really appreciate you being tuned in to the Cosmic Community Astrology here with Stacey Dredd, your galactic ambassador. And I will be chatting with you again very soon. You all take care. Peace. Thank you for listening to the Cosmic Community Podcast. More can be found at kpov.org/thecosmiccommunity.